Hey, I'm excited to talk about this subject to find clients if you're a freelancer or an agency because I got a lot of experience on this and I really enjoy sharing it. So, if you're interested in finding out the tips and tricks to easily find the clients, to get revenue up quickly, to check all the boxes, then this probably isn't the right presentation for you because this is going to be a lot more about foundational work and how to get to a point where collecting clients and customers is going to be a lot easier, but there's a lot of elements that go into it in order to do it kind of, in my opinion, right and kind of save your future self, a lot of headache and heartache and time. Now, there are definitely going to be some things in here that are going to help you out right away. I really want to bring instantaneous value, but I really want to bring more long-term value to you as well too. So I have a presentation that I'm going to go through, but I'm going to interject different stories and tips and tricks and even throw in some stats as well too, just to help you kind of start to formulate what's going to work for you. So at least a few of you, if not all of you, can walk away with something like, ooh, we should try this, or we should do this as a next step, and get a lot more clarity into how you can get more customers and clients. So I'm just going to move a couple things around here so you can see my screen and still see me. Okay. Okay. So, how to find clients as a freelancer or an agency. And again, it's about longevity through strategy and dedication. My name is Jeff Swartz. I'll share a little bit about me in a second, but I want to start out with this. Many agencies and freelancers excel at delivering quality work, especially freelancers because you're offering a specific service. If you're a graphic designer, then that's kind of the main thing that you do, not running a business and sales and promoting yourself and everything. If you're a agency owner, then usually a lot of people get into that because they are good at something and then they have to become knowledgeable about how to be a business owner and a salesperson and those things. But many agencies and freelancers excel at what you do, right? But it's the business side that you struggle with. This disconnect can hamper the growth and potential income stability that you have. So, one of the things that I firmly believe is that when you're doing this, when you're thinking about this, is you have to put on the business owner hat. You have to become an entrepreneur and be dedicated to that, meaning the same experiences that you had and the same education that you have to some degree in learning your craft. Well, being a business owner and selling people is part of that. Is something that you have to spend some time with as well too. So, want to touch on that. All right, a little bit about me. So I did my undergraduate at the University of Dayton. I got my MBA from Louisiana State University, Shreveport. I also wrote a book last year in 2025 called The Intentional Leap. This is actually a book about lessons and learnings from newer entrepreneurs. So I really do love this stuff. Well, my background's really career-wise in advertising. Over 20 years of being in the advertising industry, both as a employee at like CBS Television, a startup out of Silicon Valley that was coupons on your cell phone back in the day, media buyer for Church's Chicken and Zales, and then even more time as an entrepreneur. So I was the CEO and founder of a company called Ethic Advertising, and I ran that for 10 years until I successfully sold it to Blink Advertising, where I was a partner for another year, and then did my second exit. I also own real estate investment properties and did flips as well too, so I have some of that experience. And then about 3.5 years ago, I started a ad tech brand that's now its own standalone company called Qujam, that is a DIY geofence advertising platform. I currently also head up strategy and growth for AdRail, which is advertisements on handrails of escalators and people movers. And I'm an adjunct professor at Duquesne University, where I teach strategic management in their capstone class right now, as well as the next semester I'll be teaching digital sales and marketing tools. So it's a little bit of a pre-qualifier. I don't love talking about myself, but a little insight into who I am and why I want to talk about this subject. And why I think you need to be strategic about this. There's going to be some things that people are either going to love when I talk about strategy and process, and there's things that people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to be creative and I just want to talk to people or whatever it is. But hopefully by the end of this, you're going to buy into the strategy concept, because reality, and this should jump out at you, there is usually about a 28% increase potentially in revenue comparing companies that have a sales strategy and process versus those that really don't. And then even if you think about, hey, if I just have strategy and process as a company that could help with retention, a 5% increase in retention can be a profit boost of 25 to 30%. We're talking about big numbers by just laying out what you do in your sales process, in your company's process, in everything that you have, so you can follow a repeatable, good experience kind of way. So the first thing that I'm going to showcase is kind of going to be the theme of this presentation. Call it the Blueprint for New Business Success, Freelancer and Agency Edition. And there are these 6 elements that you need to focus on, and kind of in this order as well too. And I'll take you through deeper dives in all of them, but it starts with simplicity and getting clarity in your value proposition. You have to be able to concisely be able to explain what you do to somebody, whether they know a lot about your industry or not, but you have to be able to say, hey, this is what we do, and make it easy to understand, and that way it's easier to get past to the next stage as well too. If you're somebody that kind of stumbles over what you do, or you do so much, so how can you possibly fit it all in, this is going to be a section that we're going to give you some tips and some exercises to figure out how to get that a little more condensed. Once you have that down, you're going to go into defining your target audience. You actually have to figure out what are our audience profiles, like who actually is going to be interested in the value that we're providing. The reality of it is, if I'm a video production company and I make videos and I go and I talk to somebody that does not need a video, then they're not the right people. So I have to identify who needs a video and who needs my kind of videos. So step 1, simplify your value prop. Step 2, identify your type of target audiences you want to go after. And step 3 is then find those people, identify your prospects that are out there, and then also get an idea of what are the options that you can reach out to them. And when I say that, doing the channels and everything to reach out to them, I'm not just talking about picking up the phone and calling them. You're talking about every way that you can engage with them, that they could find you, you can find them, you can outreach to them, you can do phone calls, text messages, emails, a bunch of different forms of advertising, thought leadership, and public relations. There's a lot of different ways that you can communicate with these individuals once you've identified who they are, and you have to figure out, okay, who are they and how are we going to communicate with them? And then from there, you have a sales process. You're actually engaged with them. You're able to get a pitch meeting or get an introductory call. What is your process from qualifying all the way to closing, and actually outlining what does that look like? And a really good use of this is to think about, when we had the most success getting somebody onboarded, what did that look like? What kind of path did that go? And how do we replicate that as well too? And then writing it down to have that be an established process. Another thing that I think is critically important, we'll talk in more detail about this later, is if you have a really good sales process, then you should have an onboarding process that matches. Nothing is worse than being sold something and then your very first experience with a freelancer or a agency is a little lackluster. It doesn't hold up to the same kind of snuff as the initial engagement, and then you sign something and it's like, oh, well, this isn't really what I was thinking, and it puts a little doubt into their mind, right? And then after all of that, you have everything from simplifying your value proposition to defining your target audience, being able to find them, figuring out the channels that you're going to communicate with them on, establishing your sales process, developing your onboarding process. Well, create materials around that, internally and externally as well too. It adds credibility that you want to build up, and then you also want to put these things together so when people ask questions, oh, here you go, I already have this. And again, both internally and externally, because there's a lot of the process that you can write up internally that the customer never really needs to see the details on. They just need to experience it. All right, let's dive deeper into this. Simplifying your offer. All right, take a breath. This is going to be hard for those people that do a lot, because it was hard for me because my agency did a lot. But the reality of it is you can't be all things to all people. So this focuses on not being all things. And if you do a lot, then that's totally fine. But one of the things that you need to do is figure out, how do we be able to say this simply so people can understand it. People that can't understand what you do get confused and put defenses up and then start to back away. So the easier you can understand, they can understand where their value is, the faster you can get past that. So complex proposals can confuse clients and hinder sales. By simplifying your offering, you create a clear, easy to understand value proposition that enhances client engagement and facilitates growth. And a really good, like I promised I was going to give you a tip. A really good tip is this 30-second pitch. I'm an ad guy. I have done a lot of 15, 5, 10, 30-second kind of videos in my day. And one of the things that is so fantastic about being able to sit down and, after a discovery call, of hearing all the great things from a client, is figuring out, well, how do I put that all in 30 seconds? The answer is you don't. You don't put every single thing that a client thinks is important into 30 seconds. You can't. You can't put everything that's in your business or your offering as a freelancer into 30 seconds. But what you can do is build demand and desire and an understanding of how you bring value to somebody. So for this practice, you want to get clarity and confidence by building out a 30-second sales pitch. And I actually would want you to record and time yourself and say, hey, it's got to be 30 seconds. If it's longer than 30 seconds, then you need to figure out, how do I narrow it down? What do I cut out? What's not needed? And what can still be easily explained, where people are like, okay, in 30 seconds, I understand. It's not just about speaking for 30 seconds and then people will be like, I don't know what the heck you were talking about. It's about speaking for 30 seconds and people go, oh, I get what you do. That makes sense. So what it also forces you to do is think about, okay, I have to condense what I do into 30 seconds, but maybe what I do can't fit into 30 seconds because it's too complex as well too. It'll allow you to look at how to explain what you do in a short amount of time with clarity. It also gives you a framework, I find, of, well, should I be doing all of these things? Because if I can't easily explain what I do to people, then it's going to be hard to get sales and revenue going at a massive scale as you grow, especially for agencies that want to go beyond just like a one-person shop. Is you have to automate a lot of this. You don't have the time, and which is a huge luxury, to be able to sit in and explain things for over a long period of time. It's got to get down to a shorter basis. Now, if you are within that 30 seconds, ask yourself, is it the best 30 seconds that I can put together? I mean, if you make it in time on the first go, that's really good. But is it the best pieces of information that you can put together? So this practice will help you simplify your value proposition. And then, hey, you actually might end up with a really good 30-second commercial as well, too. Now, that's all about what you say to somebody. Now, you got to think about the people that you're saying it to as well. The best analogy that I came up with years ago that I love is, this whole process is like going on a date with somebody that you want to find your soulmate, like you're looking for them. You have to be in front of the right person and say the right thing. If you're in front of the right person, you say the wrong thing, it's not going to be a good date. If you go on a date with somebody and you say the right thing and they're the wrong person, that's probably even worse, because you might get into a situation where you're in a relationship with somebody that isn't right. You have to be in front of the right person saying the right thing. So now that we've talked about saying the right thing, keeping that simple, let's talk a little bit about the right person. You, again, can't be all things to all people. So don't try to be all things to all people. Define your target audience and actually identify what works and how you're going to bring value to them and how they're going to receive it and be like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Now, when you're dealing with freelancers and agencies, there's a timing component too. So somebody that is a hard no right now doesn't always mean they'll be a hard no in the future. So getting an idea of how to categorize certain people once you engage with them very quickly, and the value prop is going to get it really quickly, like, oh, I understand what you do. That's not for me right now. Maybe we meet in 6 months. Maybe we meet in a year. That's totally fine. But you don't want to waste your time with somebody that's not going to buy right now and then try to convince them over and over and over again why you're the right thing. In any industry where you're a freelancer or that I found or an agency, you're providing a service that a lot of people want and need. You don't need to waste your time with the people that don't want and need your stuff right now. If they don't want it right now, assess, can I get them to want it later? If so, follow up with them later, then don't worry about them until then. If it's something that they're never going to buy from you, try to figure that out. Don't worry about them ever. Still bring value to them. Maybe make a recommendation, whatever it is. Leave a good taste in their mouth because they can always, do a reference for you. But you want to just sort through people as quickly as you possibly can when it comes to finding your prospects and having longer conversations and deeper and more meaningful conversations with the people that actually want your stuff and are willing to buy. Find and communicate with your audience. There are and I talked about this already, there are way too many individuals out there that want your stuff that you need to pick the ones. All right, sorry. There are too many ways for you to identify and reach out to people, and you need to pick the ones that work for you. Now, I have this whole cycle to showcase the areas that you should be focused on to some degree, but at the same time within it there are just way too many options that are out there. And if you're watching this and you're in the media side of things or marketing or PR or whatever it is, then you know how many different mediums there are and different ways there are to communicate with people. You have to figure out what works for you and start narrowing down those channels. Especially if you're a freelancer or a smaller ad agency, you have to be kind of selective in what you do. And the way that you go about doing that is going to be based off of what makes sense for you, but also what works for you as well too. And I'll get a little bit more into that here in the next little bit. But before I do, I want to talk about this cyclical sales effort for freelancers and agencies that I was mentioning. So my belief is that a freelancer and agency should dedicate time within a year to each of these areas. That said, they do not have to be even. You do not have to spend even amounts of time and energy and effort and money in each of these areas. But what I found to be most successful for me is when I'm touching at least on all of these things at some point and then getting them into a regular rhythm where year after year I continue to touch on those things. So let's go through each of these, and people are going to be like, oh, well, that's what I do, or I could do a lot more of that as well too. You have to put together a strategic plan to identify how much effort you're going to do. And I'll share a little bit when I had my agency of kind of what I did. So networking in person and digital, I did a decent amount of that. I wasn't the best at it. I really prefer one-on-one conversations. I love to teach and I love to lecture and everything. The get-togethers where you're kind of doing speed dating, I did them, but they weren't really part of my DNA. So I would set up coffee meetings, or I would find different opportunities to talk with people on more of a one-to-one basis. It might have been quick conversations, but that's kind of what worked for me. And I would always pepper them in to where I was meeting new people and having a conversation no matter how busy I got to some degree. And then if I was less busy and my company was less busy, I would do that more and more. And if we got really busy and our things were going well, I didn't lay off the pedal too much. I still made sure to try to have meaningful new conversations. The next thing is going to be in the search space. Is you want people to be able to find you on Google, Yahoo, Bing. Also in this day and age, AI, Chat, Gemini, Gronk, all these different things, or Grok, all these different AI assets that are out there. You want to make sure that you have some kind of energy and effort going towards being able to be found by your customer. Cold outreach, emails, and phone calls. This is probably the scariest one out there for people. It's also honestly one of the ones that works the least, in my opinion. That said, if you're doing everything on here and sales are down, whatever, things just like you have more time on your hand, mix in some outreach and some emails that you don't know people, or phone calls. Try to figure out how to get them into the networking in person or digitally to have a conversation to spark those up. It doesn't have to be, hey, do you want to buy this from me? If you're good at that and you want to do that, fine, you can go a harder sales pitch. But even just doing some cold outreach to make some new connections is something that you should incorporate when appropriate based off of your comfort level. But again, I think that the best thing is when your company or you as a freelancer is doing a combination of all these things. Paid advertising is probably the one area, and funny enough, with me having a paid advertising background, that you may not need to do, but depending on how much volume you need and how good you're doing everything else. But pay-per-click or directory listing type advertising as well too. Anytime you're paying for leads, Barcot.com, Thumbtack, freelancer.com, Fiverr, stuff like that. It blends into the directory listing areas, but you're paying for it as well too. It's an area to definitely consider as long as you're getting a good ROI on it. Social media engagement, people are going to do that at different levels. The bare minimum that you should do as a freelancer, especially as an agency of some kind, is have an account and do at least a little bit of activity. You don't have to have a huge following per se. If you're like, I never want to keep it up, this is like pulling teeth for me, I don't want to do it, I get it, that's fine. But it does significantly help you whenever you can have these backlinks going back to your website. So social media actually operates in a couple different ways, not just of having followers, but Google likes to see that connectivity as well too. So you at least should have some kind of not access, some kind of exposure on those platforms. But the level that you have really depends on kind of what your strategy is and what you're comfortable doing. The next area, the online directories and listings. Best advice that I have is try to Google search if you are a photographer near me, or corporate headshots photographer, whatever it might be, and see what pops up. And there's a good chance that a lot of them are going to be directory listings. And we already talked about that you can pay to play on some of those. Some of them you can be on from free. Whatever it is, you should occasionally look at, hey, how do I keep my directory listings up to date? How do I make sure that I'm on them as well too, and trying to get positioning, because it helps out with just you being found and out there in the ethers. All right, 2 more on this. Reputation and review building. It is 10 times more likely that someone's going to leave a bad review than a good review, meaning that you need to do 10 times more effort and asks to get the same level of reviews. So you have to have some kind of strategy to ask, and you have to become somewhat comfortable and figure out what makes sense to you to get those. People want to see, especially in the freelancer space, if you're on a directory, they want to see that you've done work before. And testimonials and reviews and building up your reputation is a great place for that. Agencies is no different. You want to make sure that your agency is actually well reviewed on Google, on professional platforms like Clutch, and other areas as well too. So you want to have a little bit of strategy. I honestly, for my agency, I looked at the competition, and it was a smaller shop. We were at max like 18 people in the Pittsburgh area. So I looked at the competition that was in my local area. I was like, well, how many Google reviews do they have? So how many do we need to beat them? And then we put that as a goal. We ended up only needing to do this reputation management stuff when it comes to review building, maybe like 2 times per year, as well as ingraining it in account executives and in anybody that's at leadership, and saying like, hey, you just spoke so highly of us. Can you please, fill out this link as well too? Getting some kind of system in place for that is critical, and it will definitely help you out from an SEO standpoint and from a cold standpoint when people are doing research that you don't even know, that are more likely to actually do outreach for you, especially if you're having better reviews and more of them than your competition online. The last one, public relations and media. Getting out there, talking, getting some exposure. It could be written, it could be video, it could be audio, whatever it is. There's got to be some kind of element, and it adds to your thought leadership and just helping people out that are interested in your topics as well too, be found, and it adds a lot of credibility to what you're trying to do. All right, let me take a little drink real quick. The next thing I want to talk about is the productivity paradox. I touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to dive into it more. So on the left-hand side, you have consistent through enjoyment. That means that you as a human being are going to want to do the things that you want to do and avoid the things that you don't want to do. And whenever it comes to this cyclical sales efforts, there's things on here that people are like, I hate it. I don't want to do it. That's not part of me. And there's other things on here like I could do that all day long, and that's okay too. So identifying what you enjoy and thinking about it in that way as well too is thinking about, hey, what do I like doing? So putting myself in a position to be able to do that at more volume because you're more likely to do it because you enjoy it. That is a huge asset in order to think about. On the flip side of that is you have to be disciplined over, you have to pick discipline over discomfort, meaning that there are certain things, and again, like I said, the most successful freelancers and agencies have a combination of all this stuff going on. So the things that you don't like, you have to figure out, well, how do I ensure that I'm getting it off the list? And sorry, I'm covering up some of that, so I'll move myself around a little bit. You have to embrace the uncomfortable. You have to say, hey, I'm going to bang these cold calls out because I know that it's good for my company and I just want to meet these people, and the best way I can do it is just to do some outreach. Or I don't want to write a blog and everything, but I know that it's good for me and I'm going to figure out a way to do this as well too. A really good tip is to identify something tangible and measurable. So you can say, hey, our goal for this month is to bang out 3 blogs or call this many people or make sure that I have this many meaningful conversations at a networking event. So putting some kind of measurable amount on it and then being able to tick it off the list. So if your number of cold calls that you want to do for this week is 10, well, you write down 10 and you cross it off the list as well too. So the things that are uncomfortable, figure out a way to be disciplined to be able to get them done, to get that whole circle kind of going. But then also, put some things in that you enjoy as well too that can kind of help balance you out a little bit and ensure that you're getting the most productivity out of yourself when it comes to generating leads. Okay. Let me move myself back down. Organization is sales. There are going to be some people like, yes, I agree 100%. Write everything down, track everything, look at the analytics. I love that. And then you have the people who are like, I just don't want to do that. I want to pick up the phone and call. I want to have relationships. I don't want to track anything down. The right answer is that you track things and you write it down. An organization sales process is essential to prevent leads from falling through the cracks and making sure that you follow up with people. It streamlines the system and ensures efficiency and increases your chances of closing a deal successfully. It just does. You remember it was 28% increase if you have a sales process. So being organized is part of having a process. So I know there's some people, because this is freelancers and it's agencies, that are like, I just don't like doing it. If you are a freelancer, you're the owner of your own company. If you're looking at this and you're an entrepreneur and own your own agency and want to help it grow, you have to wear that hat as well too. And the reality of it is that if you think into the future where you have a bigger agency, more people that are working for you, you need clarity, insight into what's going on to make sure that you're generating the sales that you want and have an idea of what's going on from start to finish to make sure that things are being done and that things are working as well as they could. And then supporting your team too, where you can be like, hey, maybe we should do it this way, and help them out as well too. Laying the foundation when you're the one doing it or implementing it when you have a smaller team is going to be a lot easier than trying to shift that into the future. It also ensures that you're being represented during the sales process in a specific way when you have other people that are going out there and representing yourself. But the reality of it is that you will just keep up with more opportunities and get more closure and closes and be able to keep everything organized if you just use even like an Excel sheet, your CRM system. If you want to go super old school and write it down in a notebook, that's fine. But I highly recommend reminders. I recommend schedule sent emails. I recommend using automation as well too. But an organized sales process will get you more results. And whether you love that and that's music to your ears and you're already doing it, or if you're like, I just don't want to do it, I'm sorry, but that goes back to discipline over discomfort. And if you want to be a business owner, especially if you have multiple people working for you, there's certain things that you have to just kind of get over to do the best that you can be. And again, everybody's different. Pick your own journey, figure out what works for you. This is just in my experience of what I've seen and looked at the data academically and professionally. All right, building relationships for success. On the flip side of that, because there's always two sides of the coin, right? You write it all down, but build relationships, more human touch and contact. This is, after I just kind of beat up that kind of person, we're going to talk about this. But it's a very competitive landscape out there in freelancer and agency space. Networking, my son just is out in the snow and just got home and is banging on the window. He can get in. It's no big deal. He's already gotten in. He wants to play in the snow. All right. So when you're actually engaging with somebody as well, think about it as a customer. Think about it when you've had that experience and a salesperson's just trying to sell you. They don't care about you. They just want you to buy what it is. There's no human connection, and it just feels wrong, dirty, just not very pleasant, right? So when you go to build relationships, I like you to think about giving before you ask. And it's actually a very valuable sales tactic. There's this whole system of Giveology that's out there that you can look up. Great book. You can test it out on your own as well too. And this could be giving insight, introductions, value, resources, baked goods, whatever it is. But if you go to somebody and you say, hey, what can I do for you? Or can I give you this? It's going to open them up a lot more, and they're going to be a lot more likely to, in the next round, be able to say, hey, maybe we should talk about something that could be mutually beneficial by me doing some work for you, or you coming on as a client. But figure out ways to give, but also think about, well, what can I package up as a gift as well too? Using your skill sets, using your assets, using your network. What are some things that I can say, hey, I can give to you? A great example is, can I interview you on a podcast, or interview for you for an article, or buy you a cup of coffee, even as that simple. But figure out ways to give first, and then you can ask later, and your rate of getting more appointments and your rate of closures will go up. But leverage no, I'm having a hard time with this word. Reciprocity. It's on the screen. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm a little bit tongue-tied. Helping others can lead to mutually beneficial and increasing opportunities. You want to have it be a situation when you're friends with somebody where it's not all one-sided, right? So it's not just all about you giving to them or you taking from them as well too. You want there to be that mutually beneficial back and forth game. And the last one is engage authentically. Actually listen. Actually hear what they're saying, and don't have this preconceived notion of, this is what I'm going to sell you, this is what I want you to buy. If you're a freelancer or an agency, there are so many options that are out there in whatever you're doing. And there's a lot of things that you can offer, and there's some things that you can't. But it's better to listen and understand, hey, what's the right thing for this person? Because they will appreciate it, even if it means you're not the right thing. In all honesty, if you say that, hey, I'm not the right thing, but I can introduce you to somebody, they will appreciate that so much, and it will save you so much time, money, and headache by trying to not put a round peg in a square hole. But listen, understand, show genuine interest in who they are as a person. And this is something that comes naturally for some people, and something that you have to practice at for other people as well too. But that will help you out immensely as you build these relationships. All right. Work smarter with AI. I had to throw in AI and a tech thing in here. The reality of it is that you need to, no matter what you're doing, reserve time to always improve your tech stack and figure out how to use AI. If you're a freelancer, if you are an agency, it does not matter what you do. AI is here to make what you do better and easier and more transparent to your customers, and just more efficient as well too, depending on how you use it, right? Can't do everything. But when it comes to the sales process, it can be used for content, outreach, and organization for your CRM systems. So my recommendation is to take some time that's specifically dedicated to technology and AI. I actually like using software developers' experiences of doing sprints, so 2-week sprints, to hyper focus on something to get it done. So being able to say, okay, for 2 weeks, I'm going to hyper focus on how AI can help me with our content and how it can develop it maybe help us create one piece of content into multiple pieces of content and figure out how does this work for us. Another 2 weeks, maybe we focus on outreach. How do we personalize outreach at a scale and do it effectively? And then maybe another 2 weeks, we focus on how we can manage our pipeline more effectively, but don't let it stop there. Maybe another 2 weeks is, hey, how do we leverage it for, making the script writing process a lot better, or helping us analyze data points in our media plans as well too. Taking time to stop and think about things from a technical standpoint and a process standpoint is incredibly important for all of your business. But this is definitely something that as you're working on how to get more leads, you need to figure out how to do it at scale and automated and optimized as well too, with both your mind, your mouth, your hands, and technology tools, as well as the rest of your team that's out there as well. All right. Keith Ferrazzi, New York Times bestselling author, renowned executive team coach and speaker. He's done a lot that's out there. But I grabbed his quote because it's good to bring in some other people as a show of credibility as well too, to kind of harp on this human component as well too. I have a reputation for being process oriented and a reputation for being hyper culture oriented as well. But people at the end of the day are often the most important things. So the currency of real networking is not greed, it's generosity, it's giving, it's being there for other people and that human connection. I am not the only one saying this. It is something that is widely documented and believed by a lot of people that have had a lot of success. So I just wanted to grab a smart guy and showcase that it's not just me saying this and really try to hit this one home. All right, now we're to the onboarding phase. You have made the sales pitch. They have signed off on it. The worst thing, like I said, that can happen is, I'm going to move my box around so you guys can see some of this as well too. Cool. The worst thing you can do is say, okay, we're so excited as a client to come on board and see what's going on. And you're like, all right, we don't know how to get started, or you seem like you don't know how to get started is more likely, right? It's going to create doubt. It's going to create a buyer's remorse potentially if the sales process is good and the onboarding process is not. It's going to help you with retention by making a smooth onboarding process to increase their client loyalty. It's going to add an element of professionalism as well too, where I don't care if you're a freelancer. If you have documentations and a process and you can actually clearly say and manage, the next thing on here is their expectations by saying, here are the steps, they're going to be so much happier with their decision because you're bringing this level of professionalism. And you do want to manage those expectations. You do want people to have an idea that you have an idea of how this is supposed to work as well too. Now, you might be like, oh, well, the onboarding process. We do so much, Jeff. Like, what can we possibly, put it all into one thing? We customize everything. Okay, I get it. But the reality of it is, and a lot of times the creative side of things, let's kind of say this, or media too, when there's a lot of complexity and you're doing more than just a few things, is the reality is that you're still doing the same kind of activities. If you're creating a video production, then you still have to write the script, do the discovery. You have to maybe do a scout if it's live. There's always going to be certain things that you can kind of have within a process as well too. And it starts with the onboarding. You're always going to get the same type of information, billing information and different things. And you can change the playbook a little bit, but at the end of the day, you can identify how onboarding somebody that was successful, how that looks and what happened with that versus when it was kind of a mess and those differences. And then outlaying how that goes and then showcasing that to the customer as well too, to make them feel very comfortable and confident in your ability as well to get this thing started and how it's going to be here on out. All right. I love this slide. Thanks for sticking with me. We're almost done. I really do like thought leadership. I don't like the limelight. I personally really like to teach and share and help others and everything. So I'm not about like being in front of people, but I love the idea of thought leadership. And the reality of it is that if you're a freelancer or an agency and someone, I don't care who it is, they gave you money to do something, you have enough knowledge and know-how to get somebody to give you money to do work for them, then you have enough knowledge and know-how to be able to be a thought leader in that space as well too, to some degree, obviously. Thought leadership, when you create content, it's going to help your SEO, your GEO with the AI discovery, and your discoverability as well too online. It allows people to find you and read content that you created that says, oh, I kind of like what this person is all about. The second thing is there's instant credibility. When you're talking with somebody like, oh yeah, I wrote an article about that. Here, I'll share it with you. Or I was interviewed about that. Or we did a video on budget preparation. So here you go. It's going to make it seem like you have your shit together, part of my language, and give you a bunch of credibility there. Then you have sales acceleration. It changes your pitch from convincing them that you can do something to more being a consultant and kind of focusing on the fact of like, hey, I'm here to help you because I have a lot of knowledge. I have a proven track record, and then a lot of people want to see that you've done this and you know what you're talking about. And it kind of shifts and accelerates the sales process because they don't have to qualify you nearly as much because there's documentation all over the place when you create a lot of thought leadership, a lot of written content, audio content, video content on these subjects. Time saver. I love this one. Okay. Let me tell a story on this. So we did a video when I had my ad agency about 6 years ago now. And it was for one of the best bunion doctors in the country. And he got asked the same questions over and over and over again. And he actually met with 80 different patients every week, which is insane to me. But the whole premise of this was to try to create something that covered all the questions that he's normally asked, put a comedy spin on it as well too, and then have these patients watch this in the waiting room, when emailing them before their appointment as well too, to really save them time. And I thought it was so cool because when we did that, it actually worked, which is great. But the reality of it is if he saved 1 minute per patient, that's 80 minutes, a little over, or a little under an hour and a half per week. 2 minutes is, what is that? 2.5 hours, a little over 2.5 hours per week. If he saves 5 minutes per patient, he is almost saving an entire work week. It's like 6.667 hours in a week just by saving 5 minutes from there. Well, he's also increasing his credibility by having this really neat video that he could show them and saves a lot of time. Those minutes really stack up. Thought organizer. Oh my gosh. When I first launched an agency and got into being an entrepreneur in 2014, I had so many thoughts and I thought I could keep them all organized in my head. Now that I'm 40 years old and I've been doing this, I have forgotten more things than I've retained. And as time goes on, I know that's going to continue. Writing something down helps you retain it. And writing it as thought leadership or creating something that's thought leadership, you will lose stuff. You will create stuff that is going to be banger for you for maybe even like a couple of years, and then you forget it or it becomes obsolete, whatever it might be. But you will also create stuff that will be good reminders of content that you did, information you have, things that maybe need to be updated. And then it actually keeps kind of like a historic catalog there as well too. I have done videos that I look back at it now and I'm like, man, I know so much more now, but I look so young in comparison. Or there's one video in particular, and it's the only time that I actually had my daughter in one of these videos too, when she was a baby, and now she's 9.5 years old. So it's a nice little time capsule to remind yourself of where you've been, but also the information, so you have your thoughts kind of chronologically ordered. The last one of this is internal education. If you're a freelancer, it's a good reminder and everything, but if you have one person, if you have a half a person, if you have one part-time person, when you create thought leadership and then you share it with your internal team, it becomes their knowledge bank too. So it helps educate your internal team as well as other people that are out there. And the better your internal team is educated, the better they can serve people, sell your product, keep retention, be professionals as well too. So it helps in that way as well. So I love this slide because just getting into this a little bit with thought leadership and creating your own content and owning what you know and that you can bring a value to, it really puts it in a frame of all the benefits that can come out of it. Okay, last slide, I promise. Be your own case study. Please, the saying that so many agencies and so many freelancers have is, oh, well, our website looks like garbage because we don't have time because we're working for other people. Then they say, the plumber with the leaky pipes at home, and they laugh about it and everything. It is a terrible, terrible excuse, in my opinion. And it's one that I used. I used it a lot. And then I realized, well, when people are on my website and we provide website services, if it's not up to snuff, then how could they possibly trust me? If we aren't using the same tools that we provide to other people, then how can we experience what it's like for them to be using it as a company? And how can we confidently say that this is what we do for others when we're not even doing it for ourselves, or doing it with not as much focus as well too? When your own case study, what you end up actually having happen is people will see it and be like, oh, I'm confident that you can do it because you did it for yourself. And you become your very first case study. And then they want to be able to see proof that you've done it for other people as well too. When your stuff isn't up to snuff, you are losing customers because they won't even reach out to you. They will say, hey, if they can't even do it here and this looks like a mess, then I'm not going to get what I want out of it. And they won't even make it to the point where you're creating beautiful websites or great media campaigns or beautiful creative as well too. So put some time and energy into making sure that whatever you do it for yourself and have fun with it as well too. You are the client and the creator. You can do whatever you want with it. So make sure that you're doing it for yourself at a very high degree and that you take the time to do it, because I guarantee you that if you don't, you will lose opportunities, because that's what happened for me. When I started focusing on myself and doing the things I did, for other people, it really kind of started to shine through, where we're starting to get leads organically, paid through different mediums on a very, very consistent basis. All right. I appreciate you spending this time with me. I'm part of a couple different brands that I have, and I already kind of mentioned, but here's my contact information. I'm happy to spend some more time with you. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well. But thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. And I really hope that this has helped at least a couple of people that have watched this. And thank you so much for spending the time with me today.